Hey guys, how's it going? So today I want to talk about what a lot of other YouTubers have been discussing pretty recently, and that's problems with the endgame loot. Now, a lot of this video is going to be common knowledge because a lot of you are at the endgame point, but I'm just going to say this for people that really don't know exactly what I'm talking about. So obviously right here we have the special gear vendor, and basically all the best loot can be bought from this vendor. And especially for the high-end blueprints, all the blueprints are level 31, which is pretty much the highest level gear you can possibly get in the game. Now, if you manage to get a few Phoenix credits, you can simply buy some of the best gear in the game from this vendor. And I'm going to compare the Division to a similar loot-driven game called Destiny. And believe it or not, I used to play Destiny quite a bit, but basically, if you have these high-end weapons similar to exotics, and let's say this special gear vendor is similar to the vendor Jur, who would sell exotic weapons and armor, then pretty much in Destiny terms, the only way to get the best gear in the game is to wait for Jur to come every Friday and buy from him. And obviously, if the best gear is found in a vendor, why would you ever do challenging missions for the loot? All you're really doing it for is Phoenix credits to buy the better loot. So to me, this system doesn't really make sense because once you buy this gear out of the vendor, you then have the best gear in the game. And if you are already doing challenging missions to get Phoenix credits, what is there left to do with your best gear? Once you get the gear you want, the game is pretty much over. And honestly, at this point, people don't even care what gear they get to drop actually in-game. They only want Phoenix credits to buy the gear from this vendor. Now, what I think the special gear vendor should give you is gear good enough to do the challenging missions with. And that's pretty much what they are right now, except they should be a stepping stone into getting better loot from the challenging missions. Now let's say you really like the Liberator and you want to get the Liberator blueprint. This is going to cost you 179 Phoenix credits, which you can get from killing bosses with names, doing challenging missions, or even doing hard missions. Now what's interesting about this system is if you really want the Liberator and you want it as fast as possible, you're going to go ahead and try and do those challenging missions, and if they're daily missions you can get as many as 50 or more than 50 Phoenix credits per mission. But if you don't have good enough gear necessary to do challenging missions and face level 32 enemies, well then you're going to do the daily missions on hard mode. And this will still give you Phoenix credits but at a slower rate. So you can eventually get to 179 Phoenix credits and go ahead and buy your Liberator blueprint. So even though you didn't have good enough gear to play the challenging missions, now that you have the Liberator, let's say you are powerful enough and you can run through the challenging missions. But then you have to think about why you're running the challenging mission in the first place. You already have the Liberator, which is the gun you are after. So let's just say for the example that the Liberator is the most powerful gun in the game. And if you already have the Liberator, why would you ever do a challenging mission? All the gear you're going to get is going to be less important and less powerful than the gun you already have. And this is the main problem with a lot of the endgame material, is that you can simply buy the best guns and best armor, and you really don't have to ever get it to drop. This takes out the need mostly to even do any challenging missions. And like I said before, the only reason people actually do challenging missions is to get Phoenix credits faster. Most people truly and honestly don't even care about the loot at the very end of the challenging missions. And what's interesting is there are obviously level 30 and 31 weapons in the game. As you can see, the Liberator power level is 31, but the requirement is 30. So technically, even if you're 30, you can use a level 31 weapon. Now what strikes me as strange is the challenging missions have level 32 enemies, mostly elites. But no one's ever heard of a level 32 weapon. So why is this? The enemies are level 32, why can't we have power level 32 weapons with a level requirement of 30? That would make challenging missions all the worthwhile. And that would mean the special gear vendor is merely a stepping stone into doing the most challenging missions in the game, and that way the special gear vendor doesn't end up being the end game gear vendor. So as it stands right now, the special gear vendor is basically the end game. But let me ask you this. If challenging missions did not give you Phoenix credits in any way, would you still do them? Would it still be worth your time to kill hundreds of level 32 elites in order to maybe get one or two high-end drops? And those one or two high-end pieces of gear that you might receive may not even improve your character at all. And that's where we really decide if we're doing challenging missions for Phoenix credits or for the loot. If you're doing it for the loot alone, then you would easily do challenging missions even if they didn't give you Phoenix credits. But if you're in it for the Phoenix credits and know that the special gear vendor is the only way to go when getting your end game gear, then obviously there's a problem. So the whole point of this video is very simple. End game gear shouldn't be able to be bought out of a vendor. This really affects the longevity of the game because once you get the gear you want, you're pretty much done. You don't even have to do any other missions ever again. Now this about wraps up the video, guys, so hopefully that made sense. and hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you leave a like, share, and subscribe for daily content, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.